come along today to update us on the Haven House Children's Hospice. I'm sure we're all aware of hospices. He's explained my confusion over some of them, but he will tell a bit more fully. So Mike, I'll straight over to you, I think.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me here today. Thank you also for your support of Haven House, because you've been very supportive of the hospice over a number of years now, and we're very grateful for that. It was about 9 years ago I spoke to you over at Upminster when I had my age concerned havering hat on. I'm told there's still a video. I've been trying to bribe Colin to get rid of it, but it still exists. And it's nice to see some faces I remember from those times, faces I've seen around, and some new faces as well. So thank you for having me today. But it's nice to be here in the railway as well, which was my local, in inverted commas, for about 30 years, because I was born and brought up. My parents lived in Hackton Drive, just a few hundred yards down in that direction. I lived there for 25 years. I was at Sutton School, and I just popped in today, and the lovely old building has gone, replaced by a green and grey rectangular block, which I'm sure is absolutely wonderful inside, but nonetheless it just shows progress. And then I had my own first flat in Randall Drive for about 5 years, and subsequent to then I've moved about half a mile up the road each time, and consequently have been a Hornchurch man my whole life. Whether I'll escape at some future point, I don't know, but certainly 57 years, it's all Hornchurch. If you'll indulge me just a little bit again about me, and apologies if some of you remember this from last time. I was a banker for 12 years. I worked for Lloyds and then Hambros Bank, some of you may remember, which no longer exists. Now, I wouldn't exactly say I saw the light in terms of banking, but I think I knew relatively early on I didn't want to be a banker for the rest of my life. But then it took me quite a while to work out what I did want to do. I didn't hate banking, I hasten to add. I don't dislike bankers in the slightest, but nonetheless I thought there was something more for me out there. And I'd started doing some volunteering with a local charity called the 3H Club, which still exists locally. It's a social club for disabled people in Havering. We still meet every Tuesday at the Robert Beard Centre, and I still help out from time to time with that. And I think it was that volunteering that gave me the thought that perhaps there was a career for me in the voluntary sector. So I managed to find my way into the National Institute for the Blind, one of the big national charities. Spent a few years there, had a couple of other jobs in between, then came and spent 5 years as Chief Executive at Age Concern Havering, which is now Tapestry. And then for the last 6 years I've been at Haven House Children's Hospice, so I definitely went from one extreme of the age range to the other. And I have to say, just drawing two things out of all of that preamble, I am absolutely sure my time in banking served me well. These days, whether you're a charity or a business, the charities have got to be run in a business-like way. They are not businesses, they never will be, but they have to be run in a business-like fashion. And I'd like to think that in my time have helped make Age Concern business-like, and have certainly helped make Haven House business-like and solid in its finances. Excuse me. What I suppose I'd also say is that I'm in the very fortunate position that in every voluntary sector job I've had along the way, I've enjoyed it that much more than the last. And in terms of the job I'm in now, and I look back and try to remember back to when I left banking 20 blah 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 years ago, I kind of had in mind that I'd like to be heading up a small local charity with a very clear defined remit and a real purpose, meeting a real local need, and that is most definitely what I'm doing now. And for me, Haven House is the pinnacle of my career. I absolutely love it. It has very sad days, as you'll appreciate, but most of the time it's enormously satisfying. My only dilemma now is I'm probably going to be working for at least another 7 or 8 years, and do they really want me there for 13 or 14 years in total? So I need to get that one through. So, Haven House. We are based in Woodford. Has anyone ever been there, just out of interest? Has anyone been there? Right, well, I'll come back to that. Lovely.
Some time ago.
Well, you're very, very welcome at a future stage, but that is us. We are in a 100-year-old arts and crafts listed building to which we've added a new annex to one side, and we're surrounded by 8 acres of Epping Forest. We're not far off the main road. We're up near Woodford County High and Woodford Rugby Club, if that means anything to you. But we are in the most amazing location in a wonderful building, and it's incredibly tranquil and a great place to do what we're doing. But we're there to care for families, and we're there to care for children with life-limiting conditions. And in the main, we're talking about children who have conditions that will probably kill them before they reach adulthood. And we're doing that across North and East London, West Essex, and to a degree East Hertfordshire, so it's quite a large area. And you're talking about 11 boroughs or areas in total, so we're covering quite an area. The home itself was the home of a family called the Mallinson family, who were quite big in the local area. They were timber merchants, and they used to hold garden parties in the grounds for the great and the good, and consequently we have an awful lot of history there, trees that have been planted by Margaret Thatcher, by Winston Churchill, who was a family friend and stayed in the building, by American generals, astronauts, ambassadors, John Betjeman, all sorts of people. So if you like history, it's well worth a visit. I won't dwell on this. We have a vision, like most organisations do, and our vision is the best possible life for every baby, child and young person with a life-limiting or life-threatening condition and their families who live in our local community. The vision moves on from that. But go to the last point though, we do say working in partnership will deliver these services whenever and wherever our families need them. And I do stress the partnership because as we'll go on to look at some of the numbers, we're not reaching anything like all the life-limited children and families out there, and nor all the other children's hospices between us. So, and resources are finite, bluntly. So, although we believe we can do an awful lot more, the only way we're going to do a lot more is to work in partnership and combine resources. And hopefully we will be doing more of that. I'm not going to dwell on this other than those, I gather there are a few clinical medical people in the audience. You might be more interested than others, but we have a number of definitions as to how children can be supported by us. And as I say, broadly it's children who are unlikely, for whatever reason, to live to reach adulthood. Group 1, is cancer. It only accounts for probably about 5% of the children we see. And certainly according to statistics, as many, if not more, children are contracting cancer these days, but far more children are surviving cancer, and clearly that's a very good thing. So we are there to support children who may well die from cancer and do die from cancer, the few, but also we're there to support others, and we have at the moment a young persons group of adolescents who have cancer, who almost certainly will live, but nonetheless, while they're undergoing treatment, find it very difficult to maintain their education and their social life, and can end up being a bit shut off from their mates. And one of the things we're trying to do is just give them a bit of support to help them through that process. The majority of children we see come into the Group 4 category, which is predominantly around neurological and degenerative conditions and syndromes that I suspect even the clinicians amongst you may not have come across, some very rare ones. I should add, probably 2/3 of the children we support are from Waltham Forest and Redbridge, because we're right on the borders both. And we supported something over 300 different children last year, so it's a reasonable number there. Some research was done about 4 or 5 years ago by Leeds University that suggested that pretty much for most children's hospices out there, and there are 40 of us all around the UK, we're probably between us only reaching 1 in 3 of the children who we could be supporting. So we know there's an awful lot more we need to do. As I say, of that 300 or so, some 200 of those children we support are Redbridge and Waltham Forest. Havering is our next biggest borough. We're currently supporting 26 Havering children. We believe Little Havens, and I'll say a little bit more about that, Little Havens are supporting around about that number, possibly not quite as many as we are. So between us we're supporting about 40 to 45 Havering children. The research suggests there's 190 life-limited children in Havering. And so between the two of us we're only getting to 1 in 4, 1 in 5. So Havering is very, very much a borough I want to see us doing an awful lot more in, which is another reason why it's great to talk to you guys today. Okay, so the services. I probably should have put this in a different order, but at its core are the end-of-life services. We are there to support a child who is coming to the end of his or her life, and the family. We're there to provide palliative care, much as St Francis is for the adult world, and to make that end as peaceful as possible. But, and perhaps unlike the adult world, we perhaps see a death in the hospice every 6 to 8 weeks. Some of the children we're supporting die at home and then we continue to support them. But we're certainly not seeing death every day. But we are dealing with children, many of whom are living longer with very complex health needs. And that's quite an issue for their parents. So an awful lot of the work we do is respite to give those families a break. And the children can come into us, can stay overnight, can stay for a few days just to give those families a break. And that's a significant part of the work we do. We're seeing an increasing amount of step down, which is basically where children come to us from hospital. They'd be life limited, they may have had a significant operation, and they're not yet ready to go home, but we can offer a place to go in between hospital and home. That's a kind of, well, it is exactly a step down place. We're doing an awful lot of work with the neonatal units of the various hospitals, Whipps Cross clearly, which is close to us, the Queen's, we're doing an awful lot of work with. And I've got a case study later I'll tell you about, which is a neonatal case study, which is quite worth sharing. Bereavement support, we are there to provide support for children and families who have been bereaved, as well as preparing to be bereaved. And care close to home I'll come back to in just a second, because we're certainly expanding that. The other point I might have added there in hindsight is transition. There are more and more children living longer with those conditions. They are reaching adulthood, where perhaps a few years ago they would not. And there is a problem at the moment when children come to 18, 19 and live on into their 20s. They've still got all those complex needs and conditions, but at least until more recently, St Francis arguably is more a place for older people. So we're actually in partnership with St Francis at the moment. We're looking at a particular project for those in the 19 to 30 age range to provide somewhere to go that supports those individuals, that's tailored to their needs. Oh, there we go. A lot of what we do is about therapy, and a lot of it is about fun. And one of the misconceptions about hospices generally, and particularly children's hospices, it's all about death and dying. It isn't. If a child comes into us for respite or for daycare or whatever it may be, we're there to provide a stimulating time. We can offer a range of therapies, be it music, physiotherapy, art, therapeutic yoga, and a lot of play, and it's fun. And we are there to give those children stimulation and fun for however long they have left, the best possible life. And we're also there to provide those families with memories they can cherish long after the child has gone. So if there are two overriding aims, I guess we have, it's those. And there's just a little quote there about Isa, who is one of our girls. That's not the little boy in the picture. And more about the White House. Sorry, our building is called the White House. It always has been when it was a family home. So one of these days we're hoping we might get an American president to visit us. We have 5 bedrooms. We can up to 6 if we have to. That does mean overnight we can only have 5 or 6 children in overnight. But I think we are increasingly seeing that there's a whole range of other activity, both during the day in the hospice or increasingly in the community, in the home we're doing. So what happens overnight in the hospice is probably an increasingly smaller part of everything we do. We've got a bereavement suite. If a child dies in the hospice, it's a call room. A body can stay with us for a few days up to the funeral. We'll work with the family. We'll even help with funeral arrangements and things like that. And we've got a family apartment. So again, families can stay with us for however long they need to as part of that process. I won't dwell on all of these bits here, but we have a wonderful music room funded by the Amy Winehouse Foundation, which was terrific. We have a playground outside. We also have a sensory garden and the 8 acres of gorgeous Epping forest surrounding us, which, as I say, does make it quite a home from home. I just wanted to tell you about Rosie, and we do have the family's permission to share this. So Rosie is her real name. Rosie came to us straight from the neonatal unit at her local hospital. It had been identified prior to birth that Rosie was unlikely to live through birth, let alone terribly long afterwards. So we'd started working with the hospital and Rosie's family before birth, and then virtually immediately after birth, after a few days in the intensive care unit, Rosie and family came across. The parents and a brother stayed with us in the family flat while we looked after Rosie. She was not expected to live long at all, but after 3 or 4 weeks, she was still with us. And we prepared, and then the family went home. We continued to help the family in their home by sending our nurses and our therapists out to the home. Probably about 5 or 6 months later, Rosie did fall seriously ill, came back into the hospice, and then a matter of days later, she died peacefully with her parents and her brother around her. And subsequent to then, and this is probably 2 years ago, we've continued to work with the family, the parents, providing counselling and support, and also the now 6-year-old brother who's part of our buddies group, and I'll perhaps say something about that in just a second. So the Haven House support does not just end at death, it continues indefinitely. We've still got families who come and see us and we support in some way, shape or form, who lost their child 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago. The hospice opened its doors in 2003, by the way, so we're coming up to 14, 15 years old. Okay, a snapshot of last year. We supported 355 families, and that includes the bereaved families I was talking about earlier. We supported 319 different life-limited children through one or more of our services, and 54 siblings. So I didn't dwell on siblings earlier, but we have a club called the Buddies Club, where we will support the brothers or sisters of the children we're supporting, or indeed children who have died under our care. And the purpose behind that is really twofold. One is that if you are a healthy brother or sister in a household with a sick child, inevitably you will not get as much attention as perhaps is your fair share, and it can be a fairly pressurised household. So we will take those children out of the household, give them a bit of fun along with others in the same position, but we'll also start to work with them to prepare them for what will be the inevitable death of their brother or sister, and then when that death does occur, we'll continue to work with them to help them through it and help them come to terms with all of that. Costs. It's not a cheap place to run. It cost us last year 3.4 million to run, and a significant proportion of that is staff, and a significant proportion of the staff are nurses, care support workers, therapists, all the same sort of staff you would expect in any hospice or hospital, for that matter. Of that 3.4 million, which we raised to fund, about 800,000 came from government sources, which is just under 25%, and 2.6 million from voluntary income, and that's a whole range of community activities, support from Rotary groups and such, working with companies. We have 4 shops, including, if anyone's aware, we do have a relatively new shop in South Street, Romford, so if you're there, do visit it. Trusts, big lottery, you name it, it's a whole host of sources of income. The government side, just to dwell on that for a second, there are 40 children's hospices all around the country. The average children's hospice gets 14, as in 14% of its money from government sources. Now, you may find that horrific, you may find that, well, that's a fact of life. Your average adult hospice gets about a third of its money from government sources, and I think St Francis is pretty much in that category. So, we do better than average than many children's hospices for government money, but it's still a struggle. And I have to say as well, for every extra pound you get from government sources, you have to jump through numerous hoops to get it. So part of me quite likes a balance, and I'm personally not too unhappy with the balance we've got. As far as the future is concerned, we think we justify the money we get from government, and would expect to maintain that 800,000 at about that sort of level, but we're realistic, it's not going to go up. There's certainly no more money coming from government in future. So our plans, we have a vision, like any organisation, we have aims and objectives, and we've said, and I'm going straight to the bottom here initially, that, okay, we supported 319 children last year, we want to be supporting 500 different children each year by 2020, so that's pretty ambitious. And we may not get there, but we're certainly going to give it a damn good try. And we're going to do that through more of a lot of the services we're already offering, but we're also going to be increasingly offering hospice at home, which is something we've piloted in the last year in Waltham Forest, and we're now rolling out. Children's hospices are younger than adult hospices. We tend to be playing catch up. Those of you who know St Francis will know St Francis are doing more and more work in the home every year, sending nurses and care workers out into the home. We are looking to do exactly the same with children and families, and for us in particularly some of the areas we're dealing with, and because of some of the misconceptions about children's hospices, we believe by going into the home that's the only way we're going to be able to provide the support, because some of those families will not want to come to the hospice. So my ultimate aim is that ultimately across all the areas we're dealing with, we'll have all the services we want to be offering, and we'll say to the families, look, here are the services, you can have it in the hospice or you can have it in the home, it's entirely your choice. So over the next few years we'll be working towards that, and I want to have a flexible team of nurses and care support workers who can go wherever they need to. That is me. There was something I'm sure I was going to cover. No, we've missed a slide, hang on. Yeah, we've missed a slide, never mind. What I just simply wanted to say is that, as I said earlier, the hospice is not a sad place. We do restrict the number of visits we have there for obvious reasons, and if there are serious situations we're dealing with, we will stop those visits then. But we always welcome visits when it's convenient to do so. We would love to show people around. I love showing people around, partly harking back to what I said earlier. I love the place, and I've got enormous satisfaction out of it, and I love boring people to death about it. So you'd be very, very welcome. We do in particular have a summer fair on the 2nd of July, which is a Sunday, when 1,500 odd local people come through the gates. And if that is a day that might be convenient, you'd be very, very welcome on that day as well. So please do come and see us. Please continue your wonderful support. It's really appreciated. And thank you. I'm very happy to ask reflect.
I was just going to say, actually, on the 1st of July, is there something?
On the where?
1st of July.
1st of July.
Yes,
Goodness.
And I take it you would like to have a story.
In principle, I would. I'm just thinking if it's the day before ours, it could be problematic to
Do a
organise.
dry run. Do a
Can I
practice
talk
run.
to you? Potentially, yes.
Yeah,
Is
no,
the
a lot of
answer.
the hospices and the hospice will be there. And,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Where are you holding yours?
This is the Queen's Theatre.
Okay. Yeah. I'll see you afterwards. In principle, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
Any questions? Yes,
How do the children get referred to you?
Yeah, well, families can self-refer, but we always have to have an opinion from a professional of some sort. And we get referrals from GPs, we get referrals from local children's community nursing teams, from hospitals, be they the children's wards or neonatal units, from Great Ormond Street. We have a very close relationship with Great Ormond Street. Perhaps for the clinicians amongst you, unlike adult hospices which tend to be bigger. Many children's hospices don't have the wherewithal to employ a doctor, a medical director on the premises, and we don't, but we have a contract with Great Ormond Street where we can get 24/7 advice or even attendance from a consultant if we need to, and we do get a lot of referrals from Great Ormond Street, so that seems to work pretty well. I've got a great team of nurses with me now. My most senior nurse is a former senior nurse at Great Ormond Street who has many years of experience of life-limited children and palliative care. So we're nurse-led, but nonetheless we can call on consultant expertise when we need it.
Subhash.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, if any of you have read the New Day's paper, there's a picture of a 4-year-old girl who suffered from cancer, and she is coming and working in the same hospital at the age of 20. She was standing with the matron, and I was so pleased to see that more and more work by hospice organizations are done and support is done, that now people are living. That's why you are not getting so many customers. And the second thing is why you are not getting customers, because people don't want to come to the hospice. I'm talking of 1972-73, when I was in Staffordshire. A new hospital was opened as a Macmillan home, which was a hospice. And whenever I was the GP at that time, whenever a patient was sent there, the patient used to say, "So doctor, I'm going to die." And when the ambulance is taking him, he will look at his house. I say, "Well, this is the last time I'm going to see the house," and that's it. Now that stigma is gone, though still it is there, especially for the children's parents, because they think that in the hospital we are better. But when they see your hospice and see how much facilities are given there, how the children are looked after, then they change their mind. So in this way, things are improving from your side. At the same time, the treatment is improving. And that's why I was so pleased when this 20-year-old girl was standing with the matron, and she was introduced that she worked in this hospital, as she was a patient in this hospital at the age of 4.
That was in the paper today.
Yeah, today.
Yeah,
Very well.
look like that. Thank you.
Any more questions? No? Call on George to wastewater. Thanks for us, George.
Thank you. My professional career has been working with children, and still working with children, and my aim is to get the best out of them and do the very best for them. And you're dealing with children who haven't got, in many cases, a future. And this is the second day running. I've listened to talks about the work that people like yourself do with children with special needs, and in your case, many special sicknesses, which is life-threatening. And I'm moved every time by your dedication and your enthusiasm for the work, and the way the organisations now, it's not just, it's inclusive. It's the family, and what was mentioned yesterday, and you mentioned it today, the siblings of a sick child who often in the past would get overlooked, and the fact that they are cared for and they get their own time and spent and days out and that sort of thing, I think is absolutely marvellous. I'm full of admiration for the work you do. Thank you for coming along and sharing it with us, and I wish you all the very best for the future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. If you'd like to share your
Fellows, your chance to win.
131 yellows.
There you go.
Would you draw it again, please, because I won it last week.
You win it 3 weeks running, you get the shot.
I think I own a shot already.
136.
Oh, Smithy.
There he is.
Oh,
Oh,
bravo.
All is wanted one of these.
We still got few minutes. We still got few minutes if anybody wants to say anything.
Just please let me know about the Palladium, so that I can order tickets. If give me a phone call or something, I'd like to do that within the next few days.
Yes, Colin?
Just one, Mr. Speaker, I should imagine an organisation like yours must need a lot of computers.
Oh dear.
Colin, I'm delighted you raised that. Could I just say, Haven House have been utilised for the last 5 years, and we find them absolutely superb. and I'm not being paid to say.
Thank you.
Any other business? No. Please be upstanding for the final.